watch out for you.
I will call the August 12th, 2013 Urban Renewal Agency meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Dick Anderson.
Here.
Gordon Eggleton.
Here.
Gary Ellingson.
Here.
Chester Norikis.
Here.
Roger Sprague.
Here. Is,
Henry Quant.
And Wes Ryan.
Yes.
yeah.
Henry.
I'm here too.
And Henry Quant.
Here.
I'm so glad you're here.
Goodness. Has anyone signed up to speak? Nothing. Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to come before the agency and speak? All right. Then we'll go on to the minutes of the last meeting. The last meeting was July 8th, 2013. Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to pass the minutes.
I'd move for approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Motion's carried. Special order of business presentations. We have two. Let's take number 2, which is the 4Cs lease Fourth Amendment, exterior improvements and lawn tree maintenance. Is there any discussion from the agency members? Mr. Norikis.
I'm looking at the Fourth Amendment, number 2, availability of grant funds for capital projects and assumption of specified grounds maintenance by agency. Small letter A, halfway down, city agrees subject to budget constraints to make available to the 4Cs capital improvement grant opportunities to facilitate 4Cs meeting, ... I'm not clear on what capital improvement grant opportunities refers to. If somebody could speak to that, please.
Allison, can you speak to that?
I think I might be able to. I probably came up with the term.
Okay. Richard.
After speaking to the city manager, I think, and I believe maybe we had a discussion after the last meeting that capital facilities meant, actual physical improvements to the building in excess of $1,000. In fact, I didn't put in the $1,000 limitation. We just blanket refer to capital improvements because we didn't want to limit it to just the roof if, in fact, the roof gets funded through other grant opportunities. So any physical improvement, I think it's limited to existing facilities. I thought we had that language in there.
Okay.
Well, my question has to do with the word grant. Is the city going to provide a grant to the 4Cs as payment for fixing the roof?
We are going to make available grant opportunities, which doesn't commit us to a grant. It just means that we can make available grant opportunities. You'll go through whatever process you would normally go through in deciding whether or not to award a grant. But you remember when we first visited this issue, the issue was, will the city just simply, or the agency, and I changed the name, changed the language from city to agency, but in the draft, or in the original that Kathy has. But the question is, will the agency fund the roof repair and do other maintenance? And while initially the direction was, yeah, we should probably do that, we came back to you and suggested that that may not be the most efficient way to do it, because if we do it, prevailing wage rates kick in, public contracting. So one way around, not that we want to get around prevailing wage rates, but one way to avoid that complicating factor is just to provide or match or supplement grants that they may be receiving so that they can conduct capital facility improvements.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other agency comments?
Staying with that discussion, I know this is specific to this lease and tenant, but my concern I have, is this a new program that others participate in? When we talk and use the language of apply for grants for capital improvements, it implies that there's a program, so that's the question. Are we going to be entertaining other capital requests from?
The unique aspect of this is it's a city building, urban renewal agency building. Sooner or later become a city building. We own it. And I think the agency's intent was, during the discussion, was we should make sure that the exterior of these buildings are properly maintained. So I don't think it sets precedent beyond that.
Okay, good. Because I know that was the intent. Thank you.
We just want to make sure it doesn't sound like it's open-ended, is that right?
Or open to, all,
Any and all.
to your building, or, yeah.
Okay. Any other agency comments? What's the pleasure of the agency?
I'd move for approval.
Second?
Okay. Moved and seconded that we pass a Four Cs lease Fourth Amendment, exterior improvements and lawn tree maintenance. Roll call, please.
Eggleton? Ellingston?
Yes.
Norikis?
Yes.
Sprague?
Yes.
Quant?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
And Ryan?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. The third item under special orders of business is the intergovernmental agreement, IGA, Cascades West Council of Governments Business Expansion Loan Program. Mr. Appicello.
I just want to clarify that in response to the council, or the President's reading the agenda and realizing that I had used the word city in this agreement as well, I did change the phrase city to urban renewal agency.
Good. Thank you. Other comments? Yes, sir. Mr. Norikis.
Under number 4 in the IGA, 4A, city shall compensate OCW COG at an hourly rate as stated below. And then in Exhibit B, the 8th bullet, loan processing and closing costs paid by borrower unless indicated per loan account tier. So on the one hand, I'm reading the city shall compensate. On the other hand, I'm reading it's the borrower is going to pay the loan processing and closing costs.
Allison, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. So this isn't unusual from how the facade improvement loan works, except that instead of our escrow company that is contracted by Bank of the West, this will be the COG who's doing the administration of the loan. They do charge for their time, but it's not something that we can administer in-house. And the loan borrower will pay the processing and closing fees, but the time in administering the loan in terms of checking the background qualifications, if they have a high probability of repayment, which we do for all of those loan requests, and tracking to see if there is, knock on wood, we haven't had any defaults, but if there is anything that needs to be managed in terms of the loan, then they would be available to do that. So it's really kind of all facets of administration that we would contract with them for.
And what piece of that will the city compensate COG for, Mr. Robertson?
Kurt, do you want to speak to that? It's kind of confusing how the money goes from the borrower to the...
Yeah, there's really two components to it. One is the upfront work that's done with this agreement with the COG, and the fees that are associated with them doing the background checking that we request and working with the borrower. And then there's the fees that are associated with the loan itself after the approval's been done. So after the approval's been done, the person borrowing the money then is charged those fees, except for the Tier 1, which is so low that we're not charging, that we're picking up those fees. But the upfront stuff that we normally do now with SANIM escrow, that would be the fees that you're seeing in the agreement, not in the document.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or discussion? Hearing none, what's the pleasure of the agency?
I'd move to approve the Business Expansion Loan Program and the governmental agreement with Cascade West Council Governments.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Okay, I think we can do this by voice vote, can we not? Okay, all in favor say yea. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. It's carried. Okay, we're on to project updates. Allison.
Okay. Project updates. First, we'll start with the D-Lake South First traffic signal replacement. And as you may recall, this is to replace the signal at South First Street. And everything is on track. The 60% plans are now with ODOT and awaiting their second review. Once the consultants receive the feedback, they should be able to turn around the 90% plans in just 2 or 3 days. So we're kind of working now in the more detailed phases. We anticipate probably early September that we'll be able to get the final ODOT review. And it looks like we will need to get a few easements for the posts or the traffic signal support poles. But otherwise, there are no major issues. So we're moving along just fine with that. And then after that, we should be able to move on to construction bidding process for an early spring construction period. So barring no other major hurdles, then we're on track for that timing. Cutler Sewer Extension Project. This is the about 1,000 linear feet of sanitary sewer line in Cutler City that will take an existing line and extend it kind of in a zigzag shape down a public right-of-way that is called Southwest Keel and then terminate on the east side of Highway 101. And this afternoon we held our pre-construction meeting, and we expect to begin work within a couple of weeks as soon as the contractor can get mobilized.
Allison?
Yes.
Is that construction on 101 going to take place in the evening or in daytime?
It'll probably be daytime work, but they're really going to bore underneath the highway. So
They won't have to be closing lanes or anything like that?
We don't anticipate any closures of Highway 101. Good. There's going to be a little bit of coordination, extra coordination, to make sure that the delivery vehicles and customers are not impacted with doing the boring work, because it's, a few days to dig a pit and then put the boring equipment down in the pit and get the boring all lined up and across underneath the highway. So in terms of how the delivery vehicles flow through ProBuild, we'll have to do a little finessing with timing of how that all works. But okay. Otherwise, that's the plan.
Thank you.
The D-Lake Undergrounding Project. Design work continues for this project, and this will underground utilities on the west side of Highway 101 from North 2nd Drive across the Dee River to Southwest Ebb. The field survey and geotechnical investigation are complete, and they have also finished evaluation of open trench and directional drilling options and some alternative underground alignments. They've been coordinating with utility companies and ODOT to figure out who needs how much conduit. Some people need a couple of 2-inch, some people need more than that. It's all, physically figuring out how much fits in the conduit, and the number and locations that they need for vaults. And they're also coordinating with Group McKenzie on how to tie that in with the signal. So here's just an image of the trench design. You can see there, it's like a profile with all the different size conduits for the different utilities. And then here's an image of the bore design. So this is like a big tube that fits all the utilities on the inside that goes underneath the D River.
What's the diameter of that bore, Allison?
It is a 28-inch pipe.
Thank you.
And they're saying that it'll be 15 feet beneath the riverbed, and it'll be about 180 feet on each side of the river that they will need to bore to get down to that depth and then across and underneath. So not a little project. And moving on to the Nelscott Southwest 35th Street parking lot design. We had the latest meeting we had with ODOT. They indicated that we can build the parking lot, but they will be building the frontage road portion. They expressed some concerns about phasing because the highway, eventually the project elevations are a little bit tricky because the highway will actually be about 8 inches higher through that section of the road than it is now. And so in discussions about who builds what when and how that meets up, that was mainly the concern. So as it stands now, ODOT's preference is to have us build the parking lot, which is what we originally intended, long ago, and then basically just to their right-of-way, so behind the curb. We would just build our parking lot, and then they would build the sidewalk and the frontage road when they do their project. So that's what we're planning now. So the only drawback about this change is that it'll delay the total project completion for about a year. So we'll build our portion. It just won't look as nice. It won't tie in as well until they do their project, which we kind of knew would happen just because their construction window is much longer than ours. So that's the status of the parking lot. Are there any questions on that one?
Mr. Chair, when would the city's or the Urban Renewal Agency or whatever, when would the construction of that begin from the city's standpoint?
I think that one we're thinking spring.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Allison, I guess, was there any discussion on, during ODOT's construction, of them inadvertently impacting that parking lot? I'm a little fearful of a nice new parking lot that somehow I see these big rigs then getting parked there and stuff, all having to do with the construction of the highway, and I'd hate to see our work crinkled.
Yeah. I'm sure that won't be their intention, and they'll do their best. I would think that they're used to, it would be a brand-new project, so.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Ellington.
Well, would it be possible, or would it make sense to wait until the road is done before we put in the parking lot?
Well, we have, the summer tourism season and weather that we have to kind of work within. And then we have our projects that we're trying to finish out, as Urban Renewal wraps up. So.
Well, that's why I was asking the question. I don't think this summer or the season would be that big of a deal if you just waited until after the road was done. But I don't know if because of the sunsetting of the district, if you could wait.
Yeah, we can't wait till after the district is sunset to do the project. But
I'll guarantee you what the mayor's concern is. It's going to happen. the guys that are out there working, you can tell them whatever you want to tell them, and they'll just end up doing what they want to do.
Well, then perhaps some kind of an agreement, I guess that would be the before and after.
A lot of photos.
Yeah, that they would put us back in shape, but.
Because they're really 2014 and 15, those 2 years of construction. So if we waited until 2015 or 2016 to build it, then Urban Renewal probably wouldn't be able to pay for the project. So.
I mean, Urban Renewal can't spend any of the money after the sunset? I mean, if the money is put aside for a specific project?
I think if there were a construction contract or something, then that would be different. But I just don't know. It's hard to anticipate at this point since we're mid-design, with ODOT's timing. And it's something we can explore as we go along and get closer.
Mr. Appicello, have you got any comment on that?
No, not at this time. I am mindful, however, that we have an advertised public hearing we're supposed to be having tonight on this agenda for urban renewal. So I'll be happy to look into the issues about spending money during or after the sunset, but I just want to ask if we're going to wrap up the update.
Updates, sure.
Thank you.
Go a little more quickly. Okay. Economic development. I went over this last time, but now we have the business expansion loan with the IGA. So as soon as that is signed by the COG and we have that in place, then we'll be able to put that on our website as well as another tool. And more on the business expansion loan. I'll spare you the details of the update to the 24 years of urban renewal report. I expect this week to get it uploaded, and if any of you would like a hard copy, I'm happy to get a printed one in your box, so just let me know, and people can swing by the office to take a peek. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And as Mr. Appicello has said, we do have a public hearing. This is on the lease options agreement with the 4 Cs. At this time, we will open the public hearing. Is there a staff report on the public hearing? I guess we've already heard that, haven't we?
Actually, no, there's a staff report in the agenda packet, and my apologies, I think I refer to city everywhere. I should be referring to agency. But just for introductory, this under 221-725, in order to convey city property, you need to have a public hearing, and you need to make a finding that it's either not necessary for public use or in the best interest of the public. And that's the reason you invite the public to come in and testify. It includes option agreements. That's why it falls within the statute. Although the option agreement is not, today we're not actually approving it, and it's only a possible conveyance. The terms and conditions are set forth in the option agreement. I believe they were properly advertised. The purchase price is set forth in the agreement. I believe it was in the ad, and this is a 3-year option agreement. This replaces the Supplement 1, which was attached to the 2006 lease. So I guess this was initiated by the 4 Cs because that option was technically going to expire on August 31st. And so this is properly advertised new option agreement replacing Supplement 1.
Okay.
I'd call for public comment and move forward.
Okay. I now open the public hearing to comments from the public. Members of the audience are invited to come forth, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Has anyone signed up to speak? We'll know in a jiffy. Nobody has signed up. Is there anyone else who would like to speak at this time? If not, are there comments from the agency members?
Yes, please, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Noriakis.
Under Section 4, Mr. Rapicello, amount of acreage line for, under this agreement, will not be avoided due to any determination. Is that what you intended? Will not be avoided?
Maybe voided.
I probably meant voided, but spell check probably made it avoided.
Okay. Just wanted to point that out.
Technically, we could say that it's close enough, but
That's a good catch.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the agency?
Mr. Chairman, I guess I would remind the agency that the short-term nature of this, purchase option was really to tie back into the lease that we had, which was a 3-year. So, because as one starts reading it, as I did, I immediately made a note, why so short a time, and then was reminded myself that that's why. Would have sync up with the lease. So not to be concerned with that. And this one, as you can tell, has 1-year intervals with additional, so it just gives the 4Cs opportunities to push it forward.
Right. Thank you for that. Any other comments from the agency? If not, I will close the public hearing. Do we want to take action on this evening?
yes.
Okay.
I believe that, leases, I'm sorry, this is an option agreement, so I believe there's a recommended motion in the staff report.
I believe that's right. Is there a motion to approve the lease option agreement with the 4Cs?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any more discussion? Okay, then roll call, please.
Sprague,
Yes.
Norikis, Quant,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Eggleton, and Quant.
Yes.
Motion carries. Oh, I guess I called you twice.
Oh,
What did I miss?
I'll say yes.
Ellingson, Mr. Ellingson, would you like to vote?
He's making up for last time that she didn't call me, so.
Is that twice in a row? Having gone through all the business that we have on our agenda, are there any comments from agency members? If not, I will adjourn the meeting.
Cool.